Hey folks, and welcome to TK Power Sports. Well, winter is back. It's been an amazing winter for us, at least here in southern Ontario. And yes, compared to the last couple years, we have way more snow this year. So if you're a snowmobiler like me, you've been loving it, I'm sure. And actually, it's been extra fun for me this winter because I brought home this. This is a 1988 Yamaha Snoscoot that I bought for my kids. And in this video, I'm gonna get my big guy Otis to come ride it for us. We're gonna talk to him about it, and then I'll tell you all about this machine, the buying process, how much I paid, and then we'll talk about safety and kids riding on machines like this. So make sure you stay tuned. Let's start by going over exactly what we have here. So this Yamaha Snoscoot is powered by an 80cc two-stroke single-cylinder engine. One nice feature here is it is oil injected. So like most two-stroke snowmobiles, you just put oil into that reservoir. You don't have to mix your oil and your gas. Now, I'm going to show you the engine, and I'll show you the process to get into it. You first pop the seat off the back here, like so. And this is one slightly annoying thing about the Snoscoot. There's no hood that you can pop. There's no straps or anything to easy access, get underneath the body. You have to actually get a 10mm socket and take out 5 different bolts. So there's 2 on each running board. And then 1 right up here on the nose. Now that takes, 2 seconds. It is easy, and the nice thing is once you get this body off, the access that you get is really good. So my plastics get a little hung up there. Oh, that's because I forgot a bolt. That'll do it every time. Haha! Okay. There we go. So that slides off like so. I swear that's easy, I just made it look hard. And like I said, here's your entire engine, so your access is really good. We got your little battery right here, your wiring harnesses for your lights and your starter, oil reservoir. Over here is access to your carburetor. So this is the one thing that I adjusted. This right here is your mix screw, and then over here there's an idle set screw. And I did have to play with that because the idle on this thing was sort of hard to find a happy medium. When I first got it and you started it up, the thing would want to take off on you. So I came out here and played with that idle screw until I was happy. And then yeah, spark plug right down here. I've also changed one spark plug because I found when I got it, it was too oily. So the plug actually stopped working, so I had to pop that, but it's so easy to get to. And that's what I love about this thing, again, is just the access. And then as you move back, you get to your single shock back here. That's basically your entire rear suspension, but you can't adjust that shock. It does have preload on it, so you can get in here and make your adjustments. And then if you had to switch it out, it's nice to have this big plastic guard back here just to keep the snow from coming up your kid's back. Now, one other interesting thing you might see here, the fuel lines are actually routed back here to a kill switch, and that's because this doesn't have an easy open hood, so they had to put this fuel cutoff somewhere where you could access it at all times, and it's back here. So it goes from the tank all the way back here, then it's easy to turn off and on, and then it goes back up to the engine. And then finally the exhaust is over on this side too, and they routed it right down here underneath the board, and it pops out back here at the back. And again, I like the positioning of this just for the simple fact that the exhaust goes out behind the sled. A lot of sleds it comes out front, and then yeah, you can get some of it in your face. So just look at the access, and this thing is dead simple. I am not a good mechanic by any means. I like old, simple machines, and that's exactly what this thing is. And yeah, it's run pretty well for me. The battery does need to be charged after it sits for a while, and when it's super cold, it doesn't love to start. So I've had two strategies to try to sort of warm it up. The first one is I take a trouble light, throw it under the engine, put a blanket over the sled, let it warm up for 20 minutes. That usually does the trick. And then the second one, and you can see it right here because I needed it this morning, quick start. I got myself a can of ether, spray some ether in the breather, and that generally does it. Now, one other sort of unique thing on this sled, it's a kickstart. There's no pull start here. There's actually a little kickstart over there. And then another thing I should point out is availability of parts. So luckily, the guy I bought it off of, he had an extra belt, but this belt is tiny compared to, a full-size snowmobile belt. And he said, and I haven't looked into this myself, but he said these are very hard to find now. So I'm happy to have an extra belt, but it is something worth considering that if you go old school, especially old school and a niche machine to begin with, yeah, you might have a hard time sourcing parts. So I haven't needed an extra belt yet, but one day when I do, I'm happy to know I have one. Just like you saw with everything underneath the body, the controls here, dead simple. Not only is that important for your kids, but I like it too just because this is a machine that I understand and I know how to work on. So you got a throttle, you got a kill switch right there. This one does have electric start, so you have your key, you have your choke, very simple to operate, high-low on your lights, and your brakes. No gauges, no speedometer, no fuel gauge, so you do have to, unscrew that cap and take a look in, but I do prefer this. Even modern kids' machines are pretty simple too, but I love the fact that there's nothing here to distract a new rider. It's just get on, understand the controls, and go. And yes, you'll probably notice my one modification. I did throw a tennis ball underneath the throttle to limit the speed. Now, I was hoping there might have been a speed limiter built in, because that's one thing you're going to get on modern youth machines is some type of speed limiter. A lot of them are even digital now. You can go on an app and set the speed. Well, this does not have anything like that. So I went under the hood. I tried to just limit the throttle cable under the hood. That wasn't really working for me. I actually stuck a wood block in here at first, but the problem with the wood block is it had no give. So the kids would hit it and then the machine would just max out. The tennis ball is good because they can squeeze into it a little bit, but it also provides tons of resistance to not allow them to go too quick. And yeah, this has also worked good for me because I can adjust the tennis ball in little increments to allow them to get a little bit more speed. So if you're looking for a simple old school throttle limiter, I would definitely recommend a tennis ball like this one. Let me go through the pros and cons now, and you can just watch my 6-year-old Otis out here riding. Now, on the pro side, the things I like about this, it's lightweight, it maneuvers pretty well. It does have independent front suspension. Now, they're just leaf springs, but still, you're getting your own springs on either side, so the suspension's not bad. I like the width of the machine and even the width of the skis. You can see the ski comes outside the body just a little bit, and of course, that stability is something that you want kids to feel so they feel comfortable. So yeah, just the way it actually handles, and this is based on me riding it, but also just watching my kids ride it, it handles exactly like you want it to, and it feels quite predictable, which is important. Now, on the downside, even this thing in the fresh, deep snow will get stuck. You can see here my guy Otis went off the track that we made, and yeah, the track just sinks down and he got stuck. But this is also an important lesson for kids because any snowmobiler knows getting stuck in the snow is part of the process. So I make sure I've taught him, hey, getting stuck's no big deal, but you have to learn to get yourself out. So I get him off the seat, we lift the butt end up and drop it over in the snow, and then yes, I usually do have to give him a push. And you can see a few times today where even getting started, I had to give him a push. And part of that is the throttle limiter. Where it's limited is sort of right where the CVT engages. However, once it's engaged and moving, it's plenty of throttle. So sometimes he does need a little push. So I don't love those things, but yes, in the name of safety, of course, I'm not going to move that limiter. And you know what? Getting stuck isn't great, but like I said, I do think it actually teaches them a pretty decent lesson. Now, let me talk a little bit about, first of all, how I landed on the Yamaha Snoscoot, because in this era, late 80s, early 90s, there was a couple of these youth-oriented snowmobiles for sale. The other one, which is arguably more popular, is the Arctic Cat Kitty Cat. And when I was doing my search, I saw tons of kitty cats. But I talked to a few owners, and their biggest complaint about the kitty cat is how small it is. That thing is really small, so your kids are, first of all, going to outgrow it quickly, but then in fresh snow, heck, even on a packed trail that has any loose snow, the kitty cat apparently is very prone to getting stuck, whereas the Snoscoot is a little bit bigger. I mean, heck, look, I can sit on this thing, and you can see it here. I can actually ride it. Now, granted, it's not meant for somebody who's 300 pounds, and when I stand on the back, the track just whacks against the tunnel. So no, it's not meant for someone like me. But heck, even if you're a smaller adult and you're a lot lighter, this is not the worst thing to get on for your first snowmobile, just to get a feel for it. So that's why I ended up looking for Snoscoots, because I felt like my kids are only gonna get bigger. Anyone with kids understands that. So let's get something a little bit bigger. However, you also don't want to go too big. And this is it's a tough topic to broach, because I did look at 120s, but I just decided, no, that's too dangerous, too big, too fast. This 80cc is going to be enough. So that's sort of how I landed on Yamaha. Not to mention, I do trust Yamaha reliability. I have personally owned an old Yamaha snowmobile, and that thing was always bulletproof. So that sort of guided my decision there as well. Now let's talk safety. And yes, for all the parents out there, this can be a sticky topic. Everyone has their own way of going about keeping their kids safe. And I will acknowledge, and I do feel like it's important to acknowledge right up front, of course there's risk in doing this. There's risk in riding any machine. And then especially when you put a young person on who's never done this before, you're taking a risk. So if you don't want to ever, just deal with that risk, I don't blame you. When I first put them on here, it was super nerve-wracking for me as well. However, I do think there's a way you can do this as safely as possible to slowly introduce them. So I'm going to tell you what I did to get my kids comfortable on this machine. And please drop in the comments. I want this to be a discussion on how we can keep kids safe, but also get kids out into the great outdoors and adventuring on machines like this. So for me, it's all about education and taking things in little bites. So the first step is just teaching them the controls. I sat them here and said, let's go over it. That's the brake, that's the lights, there's the starter, there's the kill switch. If there's an emergency, you're gonna wanna hit that. This is the throttle, it makes it move forward, etc., etc. And then I quizzed them. I did not let them even start the machine until they could tell me what everything was and what everything did. And then that's the next step. Let them start the machine themselves. Let them use the kill switch themselves. Let them feel all that stuff and sort of understand what it does and allow them to do it. Don't do it for them, because it's important that the kids understand it, because even in my little backyard here, I'm not always standing right there next to them. They need to be able to do it for themselves. Now, when it comes to actually riding, I would say that usually the biggest issue most kids have is that they freeze up. You've probably seen this before. I've seen it myself. Heck, I probably did it when I was a kid. It happens to everybody. You get on a machine, you start riding, you go a little too fast, you hit one bump you didn't expect, and you panic. And when that panic sets in, kids have a tendency to grab the throttle and just freeze, and then generally hit whatever is in front of them. So with that in mind, I was super aware of it, and I wanted to make sure that didn't happen. So my strategy was, I put Otis on the snowmobile, I walked 10 feet in front of him, and I said, okay, I want you to go from there to me, and then come to a dead stop, and I want to see you use that brake. So he did it. He started off, grabbed the brake, came to a stop. I said, great, now let's do it again. Then I walked out 30 feet and I said, okay, I'm standing here. I want you to ride from there to here. And I want you to come to a dead stop, because this is showing that they know how to use the controls and they have the wherewithal to get moving, but then also to come to a stop. So we just kept working in little bites. And then the other lesson, especially on a snowmobile that's important, is you can't go too fast in the corners. Now, of course, as you get bigger, you can throw your body weight around more, you can lean into the corners, but those are more advanced topics. At the beginning, all I've been teaching them is in the corner, you have to slow down, because if you take it too fast, you're going to push wide, and you're going to run into a fence. So that's the other lesson I wanted to see. So I came to the corner. I said, I'm going to stand just on the other side of the corner. I want to see you just creep through the corner. The other thing this is teaching them is throttle control. Children have a tendency to think all or nothing. Either I'm pinned or I'm off the throttle. They don't understand that there's space in between to kind of manipulate that machine. So when I told them about the corner, I also said, look, just tap the throttle, just little taps. Maybe that'll work for you, or just barely push it, and that'll get you moving slowly. So that started to teach them that throttle control. And then the final step, as you saw in this video, is I got on my sled and I rode just in front of him, and I control the speed. And I still do this to this day. That's my number one rule, is now that I'm comfortable with him and he's comfortable on the machine, he can't pass me. Therefore, he knows if I'm up there in front of him, he's never going to rip past. And if I stop, he stops. That's my rule now for kind of helping him to control the speed. Plus, I have a speedometer on my sled, so I can keep track of how fast he is actually going. And now we're at the point we're at today where, you know, you guys watch the video. He's pretty competent on that machine. I also liked seeing things like every now and then he would be headed for the fence, or he would come off our little jump and then turn a little bit, and he would always react in the right way. And here's the next thing I want to say, which again can be a hard thing to swallow sometimes, but age matters, but what matters more is just your child's personality. Some 6-year-old probably wouldn't be ready for this. I felt like mine was. He's mature, and he's also cautious. Some 6-year-olds are not cautious at all. So this is another kind of tricky part of this. There's no one-size-fits-all age for when they can jump on a machine. You have to know your children and understand when you think it's appropriate to introduce a machine like this. For me, it was 6 years old. Could be 8 years old, could be 5 or 4 years old. That's a decision that only a parent can make. So yeah, guys, there's so much more we can talk about. This, again, is such an in-depth subject. Children's safety, obviously, the number one priority. Like I said, it was super nerve-wracking for me getting him out here on this thing the first time. But now that he's comfortable and I'm comfortable, we're having a great time. And then one last thing, if I can say, is that I have a big backyard. I live on an 1.5 acres, but even this isn't ideal because I have fences and a pool and a park and a shed and a fire pit. So this created some obstacles they had to get around. If I had my, ideal scenario, I would pick a farm field or a lake. Get out on the ice where there's just nothing around, and that's a good place to learn. My backyard was sort of, a middle ground, but it's all I had. So yeah, folks, please go in the comments now, weigh in. Tell me what you did to keep your kids safe. And like I said, I don't want this to get into name calling. Let's just have a conversation so that somebody getting into this can come and really learn the best strategies to getting their kids riding. Let's talk pricing now. So yes, you can still go brand new. There are some options out there. You're going to be spending between $5,000 and $10,000, depending on whether you're in Canada or the States, on a brand new kid's snowmobile. But my experience here in Southern Ontario is that youth sleds like this that are older but are good runners are going to sell for between $2,000 and $3,000. I paid $2,800 for this Snoscoot, and that feels expensive, especially considering as I'm going through ads here in Southern Ontario for snowmobiles, there's tons of 500s, 600s, full-size adult sleds that are $1,500, $1,200, $1,800. So it's kind of crazy to think I paid more for a little youth sled. But I think the issue here is that there's just not that many of these things around. The brand new units can't sell in huge numbers, so then therefore the used market is always sparse. Now I think the good news there too is they hold their value. In a couple of years, when my kids have outgrown this, I expect I'll be able to sell it for pretty much what I bought it for, because these things have reached their floor, and heck, maybe even the ceiling's going up, so we will see. But yes, in general, I think the idea I want to get out there is don't think you're getting a super good bargain on any of these kids sled just because they're for kids. There's not a ton of them around, so if you find a good one, and it's less than $3,000, I'd snap it up. That's what I did. All right, Otis. It's your first ever vehicle review. So the simple question to start, what do you like about the Snoscoot? What's your favorite thing when you're out riding?
That you made it go faster.
Oh, yeah? You like that it goes faster? Because what did we do at the start? We limited it, right?
Yeah,
we kept it real slow.
And now it can go super fast.
Yeah, you like going fast,
super fast.
And when you're out there riding,
Yeah.
what was the most important thing you think that Daddy taught you about staying safe? What do you think about while you're riding?
Going slow around the corners.
Around the corners, slow around the corners. That was perfect, bud, because that's exactly what's important for staying safe. Now, how do you feel like you fit on the Snoscoot? Is it a good fit for you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Better than your snowmobile.
Better than mine, because mine's way too big, right?
I know.
So then finally, how about all the controls? Because Daddy taught you about how everything works on here. Do you know how it all works?
Well, so the throttle makes it move.
Yeah, the throttle makes it move.
The key turns it on and off.
Keys on and off.
This is how to choke it.
Choke, great job.
I think this makes it go like faster and lower.
That one's the light switch on that side.
Okay.
Yeah, and then remember what makes it stop?
The brakes.
The brakes.
And then if it's a real emergency, you hit the kill switch.
If it's a real emergency, you hit the kill switch. Great job. Well, folks, we're coming to the end of this one. I would absolutely recommend a Yamaha Snoscoot to anyone looking for a youth snowmobile. This thing is over 30 years old, but it still starts up pretty good. It has its issues every now and then, but for the most part, it's hard to complain about something this old that runs this good. And then the last thing I just want to say is pretty simple. I grew up snowmobiling. It was a big part of my childhood. I loved doing it with my family. And as a parent, there's nothing more exciting than introducing your kids to the things that you love. So yeah, I've been having a great winter out here just doing laps around the backyard, and hopefully this leads to years of snowmobile adventures. And if you want to get out there with your kids, I'd say absolutely go and do it. So yeah, folks, that's it for this one. I want to hear from you. Drop in the comments. Let me know what you think about the Snoscoot and everything you've seen in this video. And as always, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member. And come right back here to TK Power Sports to see what we're testing next. And if you'll excuse me, I gotta go get Otis and keep riding. See ya.
Thanks for watching, everybody.